Yay! Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week of November 16th. I'm Ryan Miller, and he's Matt Amberg, and here he is.
Hi.
No nonsense, Matt.
None.
No nonsense.
Hey, cut it out. Right at the neck.
We are knee-deep in Weens, everybody. For Book Club for Movies, you certainly know that much, that we watch a movie week and we come and talk about it. What you might not know and or understand is that at this point, we did such a poor job with October, wherein normally we celebrate the October Ween, that we've moved it forward an entire month and some change to November Ween, and we're already one Ween in. If you tuned in, Hunt was the one we did. We did Hunt. That was that movie from last week.
We did Haunt.
Was a pure ween all the way through. This week, maybe even a little bit more of a wiener, but because it's 5-ish for the price of one?
It's 5 weens.
Okay.
It's a multi-ween situation.
With Creepshow, it just never gets old. It doesn't. You're wrong.
How many weens? All the weens.
Matt, do you have a synopsis for this here wiener?
Oh, I've got a short little tiddly bit, but it's not a lot. But here we're going to go. We're going to start off like this. This is your book club for movie synopsis. We're going to get a Creepshow. It's going to come at you 2 hours, just flat. It's not. There's no minutes to this. It is really? 2 hours, according to the rundown. Yeah, weird. Written by the glorious Stephen King, directed by the more glorious George Romero, starring. Are you ready for this? This is just going to go on forever.
Take a big breath, yeah.
Hal Holbrook, Adrian Barbeau, Fritz Weaver, Leslie Nielsen, E.G. Marshall, Ed Harris, Ted Danson, Stephen King, Warner Shook, Robert Hunt, Galen Ross. Here's your book club for the movies synopsis for Creepshow. It's an anthology of 5 terrifying tales inspired by the EC horror comic books of the 50s. I got nothing. I didn't really have anything prepared for this.
Pretty good. It's enough.
Honestly, that's all it is.
Well, how do you synopsize an anthology?
By calling it one and then just leaving it at that.
So you did it. See? My point exactly.
I've won. It's an anthology.
You, of course, much experience with this, and probably, have you seen every Creepshow? I think I found out there's 3-ish, 4?
There are a number of them. I haven't seen all of the new. So the new one that just came out, it's actually a TV show, and I haven't watched every episode of it.
And that has some of Adrian Barbeau reprising her roles. No, not reprising, but she's in it.
Adrian Barbeau, yeah, she popped up in the first one or the second one, maybe. Yeah.
Adrian Barbeau.
She's great. She's super nice. I met her at Texas Frightmare, actually.
Yeah. Still making the rounds, I bet.
I don't know what you mean by that, but yes.
No. I bet she's still on the convention circuit.
Yeah, I mean, this was only a couple years ago.
Barbeau.
Yeah, she definitely is. She's a we love her in the horror world.
No, sorry. I was separating it from one of your I met this person when I was a kid, as opposed to a T. Dalt's story.
Yes, no, this I actually met her like a few years, like 2018.
Yes, okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, 2018 or so.
So yes, you have much more experience with the Creepshow. I found out it existed and that it contained Leslie Nielsen, and off I went. And
so, do we just skip directly to Leslie Nielsen? Do we just want to just get that out of the way?
Yeah, directly to. Yeah, sure. Why not? No, I didn't even know that Stephen King and George Romero were involved. It just got better as you taught me more about it.
Sure.
And after learning that, was then re-surprised to find out that it was King's first screenplay debut, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think he had written. I mean, he'd done the inspiration for, but he hadn't written any of his the movies based off his books at that point.
And strangely enough, not his acting debut.
No, he'd done a couple of other things before this.
He did something called Knight Rider, even with Romero before. Knight Riders.
Yeah,
sorry.
It's real weird. It's
seriously you.
It's like LARPers almost.
It's spelled like Knight Riders, like the TV show.
Like the TV show, right? But but the whole thing is like it's a traveling troupe of motorcycle guys that like joust each other and stuff, and they live their life by like Arthurian ideals. I
thought you said it was weird.
It's great. It's got Ed Harris in it also.
Oh, really? Okay, so he's a little bit in this too. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that's how
we should note that while this movie is relatively tame in terms of a lot, Ed Harris does a very sexy dance, and you just gotta be real, who's in the
Yes.
room for that?
Not a lot of sexuality in this movie. In fact, all of it may very well be contained in that dance.
It's a boy, a sexy dance.
Yeah, a little bit of the horror too might be in there, actually.
Oh, terrifying! Yeah, that's how he dances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, it's because you see him and you're like, oh, that's a guy that I like. I mean, Ed Harris as a figure, I think, is kind of strange. Like, I think quite possibly everything he's been in.
Yeah, sure.
But I get the feeling he might be an annoying to mean individual to meet.
You
personally.
think? Interesting. I don't know.
I don't know. It's probably untrue. It is untrue. My fake thoughts from my brain are untrue.
I don't believe that.
But yes, there are several very disturbing things in that short. The first short, okay, I think we're in it already.
Well, I mean, let's start with the prologue because there is a lead-in. We got a nice animated lead-in, and then Joe Hill also is there.
They're bookended by what could be considered maybe the sixth little story in the movie.
Yeah, Billy Hopkins gets disciplined by his pappy for reading Creepshow, and then the creeper shows up and is like, hey, let me tell you a story.
And if it sounds like a Tales from the Crypt knockoff, that's kind of because knockoff is a bad. It's reverencing literally those EC comics. I think Tales of the Crypt was also an EC, wasn't it?
It was. Tales from the Crypt, The Vault of Horror. There was
Haunt of Fear.
The Haunt of Fear.
Yes.
They
very much knew what they were doing, and Creepshow is their version of that comic.
I had a number of Tales from the Crypt comics. I had a few Vault of Horror. I don't think I had any of the other one.
You certainly have one Tales from the Crypt that I found on accident at your comic book shop when I was in town.
Yeah.
Claim to fame. What can I say?
Hey, number one.
I looked at it and said, guts? And you were like,
I think so.
Don't mind if I do. Yes.
Thank you. We got very...
After 30 minutes of that, the comic book store owner was like, okay, guys.
Get out.
Do you want to buy it?
You're not old British ladies.
And
we were like, aren't we? Look at the tea.
Speaking of people that you probably wouldn't want to know.
Yeah, me. Anyway, so basically the opening, the prologue to this is because it is inspired by that, and this is kind of the direct lead into that. Is they created a character called the Creeper, and he looks remarkably similar to, like, when he's drawn out, remarkably similar to the Crypt Keeper,
which is fine. That's fine.
And keeping in mind this is pre Tales from the Crypt on TV, so it wasn't that Crypt Keeper.
True.
But
I bet, in fact, this probably helped launch that. I would imagine. Possibly.
But essentially the boy gets in trouble for reading the comic, and then he sits there and I wish my dad were in hell, and then there's like a banging on his window or scratching, and the creeper's there, and he begins telling stories, and the first one is entitled Father's Day.
It is, and thank you for mentioning the prologue. Honestly, yes, it was. I was going to bring it up when we get to the epilogue because it functions more as a bookend.
It does.
But you did it the right way.
Well, I feel like it helps explain why it's an anthology, as opposed to some anthologies which are just, we made a bunch of short films and we didn't really put a bumper on them, and those kind of bum me out, honestly.
I think that's why because honestly, I forgot about the intro for most of the movie until the epilogue, and I was like, oh, and then it kind of all came together. So we've done one other anthology, I believe. I mean, I know we've done one. I just hope we haven't done more. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, where we did talk about each movie individually, but then we also asked, I feel like, the two questions that I'll ask again and that anybody asks about any anthology: which one's your fave? And do you think there's kind of an overarching narrative to the movies? Something that together they form, or being greater than the sum of their parts, or however you want to put it. So keep those two in mind.
Will do.
Certainly with the bookends, we'll get into that, I think, by the end.
Sure.
So yes, Father's Day.
Father's Day.
I interrupted you.
No. I was it. I was just saying that's the name of the movie.
That is the name of it. That is the name of it.
The first thing, the first anth in the ologies.
Mm-hmm. On to the next.
All right. And the next one is called The Lonesome... Okay, we're not doing that yet. All right.
Okay. The Father's Day, which is about Ed Harris, mostly. Not really, but once you watch it...
It's only about Ed Harris after that. You see it and you just go, well, It's Ed Harris.
That was about Ed Harris. It really was. No, it's about I guess technically, okay, so this is the thing about these movies that I love. And at first, this was my thought. I was like, okay, I think why I like anthologies is that oftentimes they get to remove the why. Because think about a simple zombie story, which might be what this first one is, Father's Day. Anything you kind of see nowadays, especially, I mean, zombies is probably a great example with stuff like The Walking Dead and stuff like that. They put the why in to the nth degree, right? Like there was an outbreak, and where did the outbreak come in? Because of the government. Not that Romero hasn't done this with some of his stuff, but they keep doing it. They go deeper and deeper, and what does this mean, and sociology and whatever.
Right.
I think I like a good anthology because that, at first in my brain, I'm thinking, oh, they get to take that all out. But I think they make a case for the fact that they take it back out in a way, and I haven't read a lot of these actual comics that they're referencing, but I get the feeling that they are kind of good one-offs that mostly concern themselves with being a good scare or being creepy, and not so much with making a huge commentary or
that's where I would say this is if you from a comic perspective, I'd say you're wrong. Actually, the comics were a pretty great commentary on a number of things. The one that always comes to mind for me, because it actually is the one that for whatever reason has always stuck out in my head. And this is just an example from a Tales from the Crypt story. It's called Taint the Meat, It's the Humanity. The story is actually, it references, it takes place in just a tiny little town, but you don't really get much of the town. It's really about the butcher and the butcher selling meat. But the thing about the story is that the timing it takes place, you couldn't just go to the butcher and buy meat. You had to have little tickets. And I can't remember what they were called, but it was like in the 40s or 30s during the war. They had rations. They had ration tickets.
Okay.
And so not only is this guy now trying to make as much money as he can, because now people are like, hey, what if I give you money under the table? So he says, okay, I'll give you all this really good meat, but I still have to have a butcher shop. I still have to be able to explain where did my meat go. So his meat suddenly starts appearing, and you find out that, oh, it's rancid meat, and then it's horse meat, and then it becomes his wife loses it because it's people meat, and then the final thing is him actually in the case being cut up by his wife. But there is totally a point there. There's a commentary socially among a number of things, right?
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I misspoke for sure. And I did so in probably the worst way.
Yeah. Because you just caused that to happen.
I think maybe the difference I was getting at was maybe the difference between pulp and not. Possibly.
Sure.
Not that pulp can't have a commentary, but
it's less likely to be, yeah.
Well, in any event, I think, again, I was incorrect in how I was incorrect in thinking that maybe they were, removing the why, just that they were doing it in such a classical sense that, again, why I like a good anthology is because I don't necessarily have to worry about all that, because that can certainly be entertaining, and oh, this is the reason and idea I came 28 days later, oh, that was new and whatever and all that.
Sure. No, I totally get that. There's something to be said about short films like this because they do typically kind of no muss, no fuss. You want to get as much effective visual out there and as much of the story out there as quickly as you can.
Exactly, and which Father's Day does in spades, right? Again, they don't have to tell us why this guy that was murdered by his daughter, correct?
Yeah.
Who is now also very old, visits his grave on the anniversary because she kind of feels bad, but she's kind of a far gone drunk at this point. There's no why as to, they could have even she spilled her booze onto the grave and then it seeped into the ground. They don't even show that. It's just that she's there and she's sad and his hand pops up from the grave and he's a zombie and he goes through and kills everybody else in the story. Ed Harris second, in case you're wondering, I believe.
Yeah, it's after the dancing.
That's true.
It's so disappointing. I thought he would dance away from the monster, but he doesn't.
You make a good point. Yeah. He was like, no, this is,
So this is kind of funny because there is You could argue there is a reason he comes back to life, but it's not. There's nothing like
No, headcanon galore.
I mean,
don't get me wrong.
Well, okay, so if you want the reason he comes back to life that I would give headcanon wise is that father he wasn't a good dad. They make that pretty explicitly clear that he was a drunk
Yes.
Well,
verbally abusive.
Yeah, she spills the bottle of whiskey on the onto the grave, and that's when he comes to life. So you could argue that it's this is the drink biting back.
Sure.
But
well, and she's drinking because she's depressed or guilty. So
right.
It's guilt made manifest. Like yes.
Yeah.
I know we can do that, and my gosh, I'm the guy that always does. So this is dumb, but
I know it's see last week.
We did. We were talked about. Yeah,
we go the other direction, and I'm
Okay.
trying to now I'm trying to help you.
It's okay because I come off as the worst person because I'm the guy that waxes stupid, and you're like, oh yeah, and then when you do it, I'm like, nah. So I'm the bad guy. So don't even worry about it. But Father's Day is pretty good. I enjoyed it, and the effects. Oh, somebody you might have left off that cast list.
I did not mention Mr. Tom Savini.
Yeah, and Father's Day looks great. It's a Savini classic. That zombie looks very zombified.
He looks great. Yeah. He's like it's totally not it's not your Walking Dead zombie. It's a little different. It's a little older. There's some maggots and it's really good. Yep. It's great. And
maggots and Rice Krispies. There's not a lot of trivia. Or no, sorry, there's too much trivia. I don't have a lot of trivia because I couldn't get through it all, but some of the things I did see were concerning Savini's tricks, and I guess while they did mention Rice Krispies were used for the maggots for the zombie, they go on like very next sentence to say also real maggots.
Real maggots.
So, all right.
Whichever ones had to go in the mouth were the real ones. Everything else. But there's also it is fun that the family gets together and it's Father's Day and they've made a cake and they're all having a grand time and when he comes back to life, he eventually kills the daughter and cuts her head off and puts it on top of or puts somebody's head on top of the cake. I don't
platter.
remember.
No, yeah, it's the other the daughter that killed him. He kills first by coming out of the grave. Then he kills Ed Harris.
Right.
By could have been accident. Ed Harris just accidentally falls in the grave and really, really does not move while the headstone falls on him for a long time. So I don't even know how much the zombie had to do with that one. But then, yeah, he goes and snaps the neck of his other daughter.
Sylvia.
Or no, wife. Sorry, his wife.
Sylvia, right. And her
would have been his wife. Okay.
And her severed head gets placed on top of the...
that is correct, yes.
the cake. That's good stuff.
And that's where it ends. And
it ends with him standing over two of them who are scared, and then it goes to a comic booky, like it
yes.
animates it, and then we move on to kind of the next story.
And I love the animations, honestly. They
look great.
A couple things happen. There are actual animations. You mentioned the what's the creeper?
The creeper.
Creeper is fully animated throughout this thing. I guess except for the very first shot where he's at the window. But anyways, he's
right.
in the interstitials and stuff. But the other thing that happens is right before those breaks, they'll do stuff with the lighting and mostly the backgrounds. Like it's some sort of projection or
sure.
Design, and it's kind of, it's got the real comic book flair. Or if you think about all the pop art, if you think about the comics we've been talking about the whole time, if you think about those, it looks a little bit like that.
I'm thinking about it, and you're right.
So I imagine. I haven't seen.
So the next interstitial takes us to the Stephen King driven Lonesome Death
right.
of Jordy Verrill. Now, I have always had a soft spot in my heart for this story. It is also probably the weakest of the group.
Okay, so this is one of the stories that existed before. I think there are 2 originals and 3.
Right, this one was
existing.
based on a short story he wrote called Weeds.
Oh, that makes sense.
And the other one was The Crate.
Yeah, so Stephen King has a cute little Hitchcockian cameo in this one. No, he's the main dude. A meteorite crashes into the ground. He is a yokel times 20. and touches the thing and gets infected with some sort of super growth bush disease. Don't.
Not the one that affected George.
George
Bush.
Romero Bush.
George Bush.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. Laura Bush killed a man.
Why do you think it's the weakest? I'm curious.
Because I just think overall, it's because it's kind of the dumbest of the stories.
It's made to be the dumbest. Certainly, he's the dumbest character in the whole thing.
No, for sure. But it is like it's the dumbest story. It's a meteorite lands and and he touches it and then he basically becomes a plant. Like and I've always had
that covers it.
I've always had a soft spot for it because of the ending in the way he ends it. It's the effect that it's like when you take you put some toilet paper on top of something and then you take like canned air and you go, psh, and you go watch it go, wing, and that's just what his head does. It just goes, bloop. And then it's like alien, like this green goo kind of goes bleh, and it falls out.
I was expecting it to be more bloody. In fact, I don't have many problems with the anthology or Savini's work, but I feel like the red could have been a good contrast. But yeah, he basically turns completely into a bush creature and barely has enough wherewithal to shoot himself in the head with a shotgun. But yeah, it just looks like plants exploding.
Yeah, it's really, really dumb. I mean, it was... At the end of the day, this is the weakest one because King is one. He's not a great actor. The story is, I mean, out of everything he's written for this, especially, like, really? I mean, okay, sure, but you've got 100 other short stories that you could have culled from, and this is the one you chose,
right?
And then again, it's kind of like the rest of them all have something really interesting to them. This one is a meteorite.
It's the thinnest one by far.
Yeah, so it
certainly is.
I just think it's the weakest of them.
And I will say, again, I don't have a whole lot of problems, but on the whole, it does kind of feel like a freshman screenplay effort, you know?
Sure.
And that's armchair whatever here, but that story probably reads fantastically. Like, I bet it's a pretty good story on paper.
I don't remember ever reading the story. I think
okay.
I feel like okay.
But it's one of those things where you can tell translated to screen, you're like, this is kind of slow. Nothing kind of happens at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably actually agree with you. Weakest one of them a bunch, but strangely enough, might have my line of movie where he's probably in the middle of it all and he just kind of sits down and says, I'm growing, or however he says it.
So the one thing I will note about that movie is that if you like, if what we're talking about sounds ridiculous, what you want to do is go watch The Color Out of Space, because it's this story.
I haven't got to that yet.
But much better. And also the story, I'm guessing, probably has some like, hey guys, I read this book and or this H.P. Lovecraft story. I'm going to write my own version of it, because it kind of does.
That's the Nick Cage one. Right?
It is the Nick Cage one.
Okay.
It's real good. I like it a lot. I'm a huge fan. Okay.
I think we did some rest of the show on that where you talked about it, but I'm guessing you probably weren't super detailed.
No, I was not.
Or can be, or whatever.
It's a difficult one to nail down.
Okay. Well, now we're really into it here with Creepshow. Now I feel like we're getting these are the real contenders. I think probably if we're gonna mention our favorites here.
So now, yeah, okay. And what I will give, there is some interesting bit to The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, and it kind of comes around the idea that he gets like addicted to water because he's a plant.
Nope.
And he falls into the thing, but at the very end, there's
not gonna give this one to you.
Well, you're gonna have to give me this other one, because there's the implication at the end that with the radio weather forecast being heavy rains predicted, implicating the thing is gonna grow and expand everywhere. But it's so stupid.
Yes, you're right.
But he shoots himself. His plant head kind of pops up a little bit, and then we're interstitialed over to the next one, which is the Leslie Nielsen driven Something to Tide You Over,
which is maybe my title of show. I think that was a good one.
It's a good one, yeah, because
it has to do with Leslie Nielsen being this well-to-do, oh man, am I about to use this word correctly, cuckold?
Yes, I think you've done it. Congratulations.
Isn't that the guy that is being cheated on?
Yes.
Okay,
you did it. Way to go, internet.
I did it. Oh my gosh. So on to the next.
You lib cuck.
Is that? Oh no, did I go too far?
So this one we get it. This one is great. It's a 3 people.
Yes. Yes.
Richard Gere is uncredited on TV. He was on the actual TV. So we got Leslie Nielsen, but then also I don't know if you recognized Galen Ross from Dawn of the Dead.
Okay. They kept. I should mention I watched a little bit of a behind the scenes thing that came out in like 2007 or something. It only came out on the UK release of the DVD, and I don't think it's ever. But it's on YouTube for free. But they kept mentioning her name like she was somebody, and I was like, I should know who
she
that
was.
is.
She was our main hero in Dawn of the Dead. Hence, again, being with George Romero.
Right. There's a few Dead references too. One of the songs that one of the movies ends on is featured in the last one, I believe. So
it also stars the wonderful Ted Danson. T-Dance.
The dancing man is back again.
He's dancing, and he is going to heaven in this one.
And
he's going to the good place.
It brings to mind one of the things that I did get in that documentary that I didn't get to finish watching anyway, is that one of the tacks that they took with this movie, George Romero was talking about how he typically likes to cast unknowns because he doesn't want people to be thinking whether or not that person's going to die. Would they really kill off this big star, et cetera, et cetera. But also for this one, they wanted to communicate quickly the type of people, characters that the viewers were dealing with. So Ted Danson is kind of the first one that comes to mind with this. And you got to keep in mind, this is Cheers days. I mean, I love Ted Danson. Love me some Good Place Ted Danson.
Now, this is pre-Cheers, but they're
close,
real
yes.
close.
I'm just saying,
yeah.
When you think of Ted Danson, think of the ladies' man from Cheers, not the funny dude from A Good Place, you know. So one of his first lines in this movie is like, "You better watch out, buddy. I can bench 300 pounds or something like that." You know, like very well cast. The guy who's talking to also very well cast. Leslie Nielsen as.
Oh, you know what? I'm wrong. This movie came out in 82 and Cheers started in 82.
Hey, okay. I knew it was close. I can just tell by looking at it.
I thought it was a year or so, but yeah, okay. Anyway, sorry.
Leslie Nielsen, I will say, and I don't know, obviously I'm colored. I'm very biased. Naked Gun being one of my favorite movies of all time, and me wanting to believe and love seeing Leslie Nielsen in any way, especially the older stuff when you're like, oh, he was a serious actor and he's pretty good at it. He's good like in that era. I don't know. He just kind of seems like a psycho Frank Drebin in this.
I love it too.
Which you love. But you know, I get the feeling they were expecting a little, I don't know. I was, what am I talking about? I was expecting something maybe a little different.
So this actually brings up another good question.
Yep. Yes, it does.
Which is,
and that question
is
the one we all know of.
Yeah. So right around the same time, actually curious. Police
if it's
Squad,
close to Naked Gun. Hey, again, going by looks.
Naked Gun didn't come out till like 89, but Police Squad was 82 to like 83, and that was Frank Drebin. But so
okay. That is interesting because Police Squad bombed. He didn't. I mean, when Naked Gun hit, he was one of the biggest stars in the world.
Yeah, it was only on for like a season. It was a really short-lived show.
And that's okay. Wow, this is just broadening my respect for Leslie Nielsen. There are reports of him having his fart machine on set, which was something I thought he didn't pick up until after Naked Gun came out and he made, a name for himself as a comedian.
I feel like that's something he just had as soon as it was available to him.
Apparently it was. So that's awesome. If you haven't looked up or YouTubed or Googled Leslie Nielsen fart machine.
Oh yeah, do it. It's going to bring you joy.
Do it.
So okay. Continue, because this is actually a story that I did enjoy. I think this is actually one of the more well-formed overall.
Well, go for it then. No, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's basically, yeah. So we're introduced to Ted Danson as being a jag, and we find out very quickly that he has been bedding Galen Ross and cuckolding, as you like to say.
I say it all the time.
You do. You say it all the time.
It's like my number one.
Leslie Nielsen, and Leslie Nielsen decides to come up with this great plan by separately luring them to he's got a beach house, and he buries them up to their neck at gunpoint, and tells them that if they can hold their breath long enough for the sand to loosen, when the high tide comes up, they can get out, and he'll leave them alone. Otherwise, oh well. But then this gets even better because he sets up like TV cameras. He's got like a CCTV setup where he can sit down and drink while watching this happen. And as he's watching this, Ted Danson, of course, looks directly in the camera and says, I'm gonna kill you. Ah! But more like Ted Danson.
Yeah. He doesn't quite, the tongue doesn't come out till later.
Yeah. And then the following day, he goes to check on them, and the tripods are gone and the corpses are gone, and then they're back. And they're covered in seaweed, and they're all soaked to death, and both of them are there. He tries to shoot them. They ultimately they intend to do the same thing to him that was done to them. And they bury him, and as they walk away, we see the footprints leaving. Leslie Nielsen, in his most diabolically horrifying screaming about how he can hold his breath for a very long time.
Right. It's a good one.
I like this one a lot because it moves. Like, this one moves at a clip. There's all of them kind of go fast, but this one, man, you were introduced to everybody. You don't like any of them, and they all die. And it's real good.
But almost not when you think. I bet, me included, many people probably expected this to end with Danson's death, but it doesn't. It turns into Leslie Nielsen being the one that's tormented, by the returning corpses and stuff like that. That he eventually gets captured. So let's come back to that towards the end.
Sure.
And I think I have an answer for why he might not have been allowed to be the winner in that particular one. But yes, totally. In fact, I was, as it started, saying, well, this is my favorite one. Here we go. This is where it starts. And then I watched it and said, there it went. My favorite one that I just watched right then.
Followed by the interstitial into The Crate.
The Crate, which...
my favorite one.
Yes. So quickly became my new favorite. Why is it your favorite?
I think this one's my favorite because of it's the simple, the janitor finds a crate that says, it's from the Arctic from 1800s, and it's under a staircase. That's weird. And then they find the weird creature that's it's got weird monkey, and I don't know. It's just something about this one. This one is maybe it's because it's the most straightforward of all of them. There's something just I love about the creature and what's in the crate, and then the guy freaking out about it and trying to how do we get rid of this thing? How do we kill the monster? How do we and then the ending is just such a perfect little they schemed to get the monster back into the box, and when they finally do it, they throw it to the lake, and it sinks to the bottom of the lake, and they come back, and okay, we got rid of it, and then we're given the nice animated the crate has now opened, and then the beast is gone again. I don't know, it's a great classic ending there where it's only just begun. It's such a Hal Holbrook and Adrienne Barbeau. I mean, Adrienne Barbeau probably was a big part of this because I really love her. I love her in everything.
Barbeau is super mean to him. She's a complete drunk all the time. So Hal Holbrook plays this kind of mousy dude, and it takes place all in this kind of elite academic.
It's like a school.
Yes, situation.
Like a college.
And they find this crate, and it contains this thing, and that thing continues to eat the janitor, the just random dude that pops in. But what was that? Maybe the gym teacher? I don't know.
Oh yeah. There's he was it maybe the student? He's a student.
I don't know. It's some gym teacher energy there. Or just Jim energy. He looked like a Jim.
His name was Jim. That was his name.
Gets eaten by that guy, and then the guy calls Hal Holbrook, who kind of goes to clean everything up, and then at that point you're like, oh, Hal Holbrook's the one who kind of knows what's going on, feeds his wife to the thing, and kind of calls the shots after that. It's got the most story for sure. It does seem like it's the most fleshed out, whether cinematically or I don't know. I never read the actual book, but
based on the short story.
I think it also has the characters.
Yeah,
I think everybody's far more characterized than most of the stuff, and certainly up until this point, it has the most Savini in it.
Yeah,
for sure. Not the actual guy, but
the
his
effects.
work.
Yeah,
yes.
Definitely. I know the crate is my favorite, as we mentioned, and then the interstitial again, it goes to the crate underwater, and that's very cool. And then it leads me to this one is my favorite, and it really is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So same thing.
E.G. Marshall, they're creeping up on you. I universally forget how much I love this part of the movie because it is it's kind of the movie is a great build, man. These stories all build upon each other in such a fun way. And I mean, they don't necessarily interconnect outside of them being part of the Creepshow. Or do they? But this one, man, this is Upson Pratt is E.G. Marshall's name. Upson Pratt. And this one is he's not an agoraphobic. He's something else. Kind
of germaphobe, whatever. Yeah, a little combination OCD maybe. In there.
And his whole house is he lives in it in a top floor apartment, and it's hermetically sealed, and he's got locks and cameras, and everything he contacts through people is through the phone. That's the only way he talks to people.
Yeah, other than that, he just has computer screens and some kind of ticker tape readout type stuff going on. It almost could be set in the future.
Yeah, and this is actually probably out of all of them the one that could easily be remade and still be easily as effective and make sense and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
So essentially, when it he's there's a blackout, right? He loses all power
towards the end. Yeah, but I mean, I think the main thrust of the story is that he's kind of this outright capitalist, and he's looking at making money in different areas while these bugs are kind of taking over his apartment.
They're not just bugs, they're cockroaches. How rich people look at us. We're cockroaches. So it starts off with one cockroach, two cockroach, and then it turns into him freaking out and going into a panic room, trying to get away from them, only to find out, guess where they all are? They're in the panic room. He's such a terrible person that when it happens, you kind of go... It basically... He goes in there, he has a heart attack, and he's swarmed. He just starts getting covered in them. He dies, and then we're given the final, total Crypt Keeper... esque line at the end of it, where the one person he's talked to on the phone says something to the effect of Mr. Pratt, are you all right? Bug got your tongue?
Oh, it's the Mr. White, who is a black man.
Mr. White.
I believe is probably the there's two other characters that have to do with the maintenance of the building. I think he's the on-site maintenance dude, and he speaks with the landlord a couple times too, because he wants to get rid of these bugs.
Right.
So E.G. Marshall, Mr. Upton Pratt, Upson, I don't know. Uppity, obviously, is the most out and out capitalist, racist, basically completes the theme. If we're going to talk about theme here for the entirety of the anthology, it gets pretty obvious by this point.
Sure.
And yes, is consumed. I mean, you mentioned it's not hinted at that everyone else is a bug. I believe in there he says that everybody else is a bug and they creep up on you. Speaking of the common man,
there you go. Yeah.
So yes, and so if you go back and think about every single entry, you start to realize that every single one has to do with these kind of upscale elites. The first one, it's very much a rich family. The only outsider possibly would be Ed Harris there, even though he still,
he's partying,
gets his stuff.
He's dancing.
No. That's in dancing comes up in the other one.
Oh.
The second one, which at first maybe seems like it's not related, but it's still this very elite. It's just in the world of academia, right? They're all, playing chess.
Jordy Verrill is the outlier.
Oh, sorry. Yes, so I guess that's the one that does not contain any rich people looking down on anybody else. That's interesting. I am completely forgetting Jordy Verrill in my cool explanation of the theme.
Because it's also the one that doesn't, like, when you think about the theme, it's the one that doesn't really fit at all. Like,
maybe I can force it to fit by the end. We'll see.
Okay, let's try. I believe in you.
But then that's also the reason why I would say Leslie Nielsen, the movie doesn't end there with him winning, because he's the rich dude in there. You know, his house is very nice. He does have all those TVs. He can afford to set up these elaborate ways to kill people.
Sure.
You know, like all rich people do. And by the one after that, again, we're out and out with, am I skipping another one?
The Crate.
You're right. I'm going the wrong order is what I'm doing. Anyways, that's the one that's all elite academia.
It is.
And then we get to, Uptown Girl.
Whoa.
Pratt. That is completely what everybody else was, but without apology and without, he is on the outside what everybody else might be underneath type thing.
Actually, that's kind of an interesting... Is Upson the final story? Is he the conglomeration of all of those awful people that we've seen?
Could be. I think they're just the theme gets closer and closer to the surface as we go towards the end, and then we get to the bookend. Where we're back with the kid who's been punished for reading comics, and we get actual Tom Savini as a garbage man. That because the father threw the comic book out the window, and the garbage men come and they pick it up on their way, and they're like, "Oh man, I used to love these when I was a kid." And it's like, oh, and they leaf through the thing and they find there's a voodoo doll that you can send away for that's missing. Turns out the kid has a voodoo doll and he's using it to torture his father, and then that's where the movie ends. So
okay, well, to be fair, it ends with the creeper holding up the comic book, and now the comic book has a drawn version of the kid on the cover, while the creep laughs and blows the candle out. That's the end of it.
Yeah, which is how we come in and out of each story, by the way. Yeah, it's a comic book frame drawing that turns into
life or other.
So that, and then that's how the movie ends. But basically, okay, so this is the short of it. If I was to say how these are all related, and yes, by the end, my favorite became also the E.G. Marshall.
They're creeping up on you.
They're creeping up on you. It was like each one. I was like, oh, this is my favorite. Oh no, this is now my favorite, and now this is now my favorite. So if you look at it, obviously everybody that gets their death, and Hal Holbrook by the end of that one doesn't die. Like he's very much the one that's on the outs. He's the cleaner for the professor that gets into it with his students and stuff like that.
Right.
Everybody that does get killed, that gets their comeuppance, are the type of people, basically are the dad from the beginning. They're the people that throw out and stomp on the very idea of these comic books, and view them as whatever term
garbage
they're using across time, obscenity to garbage. And what I love by the end, it's not that these aren't garbage, it's that Tom Savini as the garbage man is like, I used to love these are worth loving. It's not that they're not garbage, it's that your qualitative judgment of garbage is incorrect, sir.
You know what? I love that right there. I do. I love it. I will take that and run with it and agree with you. 200%.
It's right. You can use it on a lot of things. If somebody's getting down on what you like, your argument isn't, no, it's not that. Your argument is, no, you got it, but you're still wrong. Like there is value.
I am disinclined to acquiesce to your request.
Sure. You did. Did you watch more Pirates this week? No, it's not the rest of the show yet. I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't.
But yeah, that's my dime store way to tie together all the stories. I don't know.
I like it. I think it's fun. I think that they dime store tied it all together by using the comic book. But either way.
Oh yes. Okay. So if I have one issue with the movie,
sucker, you're the worst. Burn.
I love the animation parts. I love the transitional pieces. I wish that the cinematography spoke more to the comic books throughout, right? Because I love those transitional pieces where they definitely and very obviously reference the comic. But other than that, it's kind of just standard, like any other Creepshow or horror movie type stuff, which is good. I mean, it's Romero level. But I would have loved
if you take out those bits, the interstitials and stuff like that, the animated bits, it would just look like any other movie.
Right.
Totally.
then that's maybe my only thing. Like, I would have loved maybe a little bit more. And honestly, as the movie goes on, I feel like they start to put more of those in. Like, it's the second to last story. Now I know with the crate, and they start to use the red lighting a lot more, before the thing's over. Whereas at some of them, it just pops up at the end and they do the background, and which is still great, but maybe my only issue. But
no, I don't disagree. There's there was room for improvement here. Let's go with that.
I don't believe you.
In terms of some of that.
It's still great. Whatever. I mean, the thing made, I think, more money than I even expected it would have made back then. But regardless, I think it holds up. I think it was funny. 21 million, I guess, is what it made. Seems like a lot of money.
It was made for $8. I mean, and that all went to the dancing.
No, you know what did cost the most? I did, like I said, get part of the way through the trivia. Do you know what cost the most in that movie? The single one largest expense?
I'm going to guess Jordy Verrill.
No, putting Stephen King in your movie actually pretty darn cheap.
No, I meant the actual outfit that they did for it.
No, it was the roaches. They were something like 50 cents a piece, and they used 20,000, I think was the number, or something like that.
Utterly ridiculous.
Yes. So if you're going to put roaches in your movie, start saving.
Now, if you want to see some more stuff, I would recommend go back and watch. It came out in 1971. Tales from the Crypt, the actual Tales from the Crypt movie.
Oh,
and they actually did do.
I didn't know that was that old. Actually,
there's an actual crypt keeper in it and everything. And
right, yeah.
But it's another anthology. I don't think it was ever as good. It's more British. So it's a little more Hammer horror-esque with a more American twist. It's kind of weird in that respect, but it's good. It's fun.
Interesting. So yeah, what I said about Tales from the Crypt maybe getting a bump from Creepshow couldn't have been more wrong. So,
well, no, because
take it to the bank.
No. So you had that movie came out in 1970 something. This came out 10, 12 years later. Creepshow did. But then the TV show of Tales from the Crypt showed up on HBO 7 years later, 1988.
So I am right.
Yeah, you were. No,
right.
I think you probably were very correct.
Interesting.
Yeah. Extreme correctness.
All right. And speaking of how much money it made, this is the last trivia I did read. The only George A. Romero film to open at #1 at the weekend box office.
He's never.
I mean, I like his stuff, but I wouldn't say this is his #1 movie.
No, but it's the only movie he's ever had that opened that way.
I guess so. There you go.
Sad.
So you too can open it at #1 in your heart for a measly 21 million stars.
Out of 20,999,999.
Excellent. So if you agree, you can find us at podcast@bookclubformovies.com or Facebook and Twitter as always. Next week, we have a new entry in the list. Again, I'm giving Matt him being the professional in the field.
Okay.
Give him full reign over this measly list here. But I think it had The Conjuring. Did it have...
Could be The Conjuring.
The Haunting.
Could be The Haunting.
Did it have Why Don't I Write These Down?
Those are all viable. We could also watch The Color Out of Space if you want to do a real connection.
Color Out of Space. Is that... I guess I didn't know if that...
You can consider it horror.
That's got to be horror, right?
I consider
it certainly does.
It's got some horror to it.
But also the late entry that I texted you that neither of us have seen and I know nothing more than the trailer about is His House.
I still have to watch the trailer for it. I'm not...
Okay. Okay.
Right. No, you mentioned it. I still have to check it out. I haven't...
Color.
Keep in mind, my wife had surgery this weekend, so I have not been...
Oh, boy, that's right. I forgot. Hey.
Yeah.
Horror comes in all shapes and sizes, my friend.
Horror, not horror.
Please do not. Tell Beth that I did not make that mistake.
Boy, your cake is going to be real good.
He's sending me a cake, everybody. That's what that means. So, Color Out of Space?
Yeah, you want to try something cosmic?
I'm giving you full veto and or whatever the opposite power is.
So I'll give you I'll respond in kind by giving you the option here. Do you want to go something a little more esoteric and cosmic?
I've wanted to see Color Out of Space.
Let's watch it, man. It's Nick Cage at his Nick Cage-ist. Outside of it's not, because he was in Mandy, and that was way more
I was
Nick
gonna
Cage.
say that seems pretty. Okay. Doesn't this have the same production team as Mandy or something like that?
No, it seems that way because the colors used for all of the imagery is really similar.
Okay.
But no relation to Mandy, unfortunately.
Color Out of Space next week, everybody. So come back for that.
Yeah, that is streaming for sure. It is. I know it's streaming on Shudder. You can find it.
All right, there you go.
It's rentable.
If it's a ween, it's on Shudder. That's what we say. We are not sponsored. Cannot. We've tried. They're not.
They're really bothered by so much. They're like, you guys are not doing near enough full frontal male nudity.
Although I will say, I did get an email from I don't remember his name, but he runs a certain podcast ranking website that I also didn't visit. Probably very likely nobody has. Says that a certain podcast is a number 51 in South Africa.
Dude, what is up, my South African brothers and sisters?
No. The certain podcast is 0 hit points, the one we stopped doing.
Oh, dude, that's cool. Oh, man. All right, well, I guess let's go back to that.
Maybe then we can get some Shudder money. No. Hey, do you have anything else you want to talk about for the rest of the show today, this week?
I could talk to you about a couple things, maybe, if you want.
I have nothing.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to say I got my Series X, so I didn't watch as many films, but I also didn't play any games, so I don't really know what's going on.
But I got my Series X, and like so many others, it broke right away.
Is that happening? Great.
Yeah, of course it is. It's
Of
you,
course.
you, I mean, it's that thing where like anything major comes out like this, the mass majority of them are fine, but you're gonna get a percentage where everything goes wrong, and then you're gonna hear that exponentially louder on Reddit and everywhere else. So
that's why I always say don't buy day one. I always do, but definitely don't.
Yeah, I always say pre-order it, then get it in the. So that way you're not buying it on day one. You've already paid for it pre-day one. So
and that way it's kind of more your fault, actually.
True.
So
yeah.
Okay.
What did we watch? We watched some movie that I thought was pretty good.
Well, you watched a lot of TV. But...
We have been watching a lot of TV. You know what we did watch? Okay, so I have been finally going down my list of R.I.P. Sean Connery movies. And
yes.
I knocked out a couple this past week. We crushed Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I love that movie. I don't care. It's.
Do you not?
I don't.
Do you not?
Those three Indiana Jones movies that the only three they've ever made, they're so good. It's a bummer.
I love it when we do this.
They could never make another one like that. They just couldn't.
They don't need to. It's a perfect ending.
It is.
To a perfect trilogy.
They literally ride off into the sunset. Like
They do.
You can't.
Absolutely.
Watch that. Love it. Forgot.
It might be my favorite Connery, actually, and that's my I don't care because I'm sure
That's ballsy. That's
I know, isn't it?
We also watched The Rock, which is just
good.
I'm on a Nick Cage thing, so I'm super jacked about watching Color Out of Space because I actually did turn it on the other day. So Shudder, okay, I'm gonna break this down for you in a weird. So Shudder has a couple cool things going for it. Number one, they do have a bunch of original programming, including Creepshow. They actually do a TV show of Wolf Creek, and if you ever saw those movies, the TV show is super good and it's creepy as hell, man. It's like one of the worst.
I did not.
Wolf Creek.
I did recently download Wolf Warrior 1 and 2. Does that count?
No, but Wolf Creek has one of the biggest bastards like ever in film, man. He's just Mick is just such he's awful. He's great.
It's a Rob Roy times 10.
It's not nearly that bad. Rob Roy is definitely
sorry,
but
characters. It's a Roth.
Tim
Roth from Rob Roy. Sorry.
Yeah. He's Joe Roy, as we call him. No, so the other thing they have though, outside of all that, is that when you log on, they have a couple of like just channels that run, and they're different flavors of movies. So there's like a slasher one, and they just show slasher movies. And there's a there's like 2 or 3, and they kind of sometimes they rotate them, but they're just movies that go, and it's you never have to You don't have to press anything. You just click into it, go. It tells you what the movie is that's already playing, and it plays.
I like that stupid idea. Why isn't Netflix doing that?
I freaking love it. It's I've actually caught a number of movies in the middle of gone, I don't know what this is. Now I'm going to go watch it, and totally have. It's fantastic. One of the coolest things ever. And it just so happened that the other day, Beth had fallen asleep. I turned Shutter on, and what Color Out of Space was on, and I caught like 20 minutes of it, and I realized, no, I gotta watch it from the beginning. I like this movie too much. I respect it too much.
Oh dang! So you've already done the work here.
But we watched The Rock, and God, man, that movie is so cool. That movie never fails to be awesome. Ed Harris doesn't dance in it, but if he did, he'd probably
there's
look
a music to him.
There is. He is kind of musical, you know. But man, that movie just I can't get over how much gets done in that movie, in how in the space that movie put together, and that it all works for me in every way. It is maybe my favorite Michael Bay movie.
Oh, by far, dude. I mean, it's honestly one of the most depressing things, because you're like, man, when a script hits, like when Michael Bay gets a script, which arguably hasn't happened for a very long time, it's freaking great, man.
It's so much fun. Like, that is a movie where every minute from the minute you're introduced to like the ridiculousness of Nick Cage, to the ridiculousness of Sean Connery, all the way to him getting his hair cut.
Some great chemistry there too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Those two really played well together. And then, and again, even the three of them with their very little interaction with Ed Harris too is so good.
Which seems crazy, because again, I bet you get those three actual people in a room together, and that doesn't seem like a good idea.
I feel like Sean Connery is the worst of the three, where in terms of like nobody is going to get anything. He's going to sit there and just be like, shut up.
Yeah, serious.
Get me my scotch. I'm tired of hearing your garbage. So that was super fun. I love that. I also had to pick up and go through again. Just recently did it too. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get worse. It just kind of exists as a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Wow, you really are skipping around here.
Well, I'm waiting for. I have to get my Plex server up and running still. Because there are a number of movies that Beth has not seen that she wants to watch, including Robin and Marian, which is. God, that's one of my favorite Sean Connery movies. Marian. Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
I don't know that I've heard of it. Is that the... No. He did he was in another Roundtable one, wasn't he?
He was, well, I mean, he was literally King Arthur in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves at the very end for 2 seconds. Is
that what I'm thinking of? No, I feel like he was in the one where Lancelot, like... The
one with Richard Gere?
You keep going. Actually, yeah, that might be the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I don't remember if he was in that. Robin and Marian is, it's fun. It's what Robin Hood got older, Maid Marian. You mean Audrey Hepburn? I do mean Audrey Hepburn as
really?
Maid Marian.
Okay.
Wait. But then you're like, okay, you got Audrey Hepburn, you got Sean Connery. You can't go better than that. You can't add more to that. But then you go, well, who would play the Sheriff of Nottingham? Sheriff of Nottingham's got to be somebody, right? Yeah, it's Robert freaking Shaw. I wish. Robert Shaw. Okay. Just time out now. You've got Sean Connery, Audrey Hepburn, and Robert Shaw. There is no way you can have a good King Richard. Wait, but Richard Harris is then King Richard, the Lionheart. Okay, now we got to stop because it's getting too much. What about King John? Because John always the worst. Oh, that's Ian Holm. You got to love that. Followed by just a little Denholm Elliott playing Will Scarlet. No, this movie, dude, if you've never seen it, you got to check it out. It's mid-70s, and it's old.
Oh, wow, that old too. Okay.
Yeah, and it's old Robin Hood returning from the Crusades to try and win Marian back yet again. But he's old. He's old for Robin Hood.
I'm saying Sean Connery wasn't even, I guess.
Yeah, he was probably 76 then.
Whatever.
In 1976, Sean Connery was 76. Yeah, he's always been the age of whatever year. That's one in particular she's never seen, and I really want to show it to her because I love that movie. I've loved that movie since I was like 6 years old.
6 years old. What? Real quick, what other Connerys are on the list? I'm curious.
What's it? It's called Outland, I think. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, Highlander.
Definitely. But no, there's a movie called Outland. This is from the early 80s. He plays space cop on Mars.
Oh, you told me about this, and I didn't. It's probably on my list.
Definitely the Highlander movies, Untouchables. I will watch. I actually don't dislike Finding Forrester for all the nonsense. It's actually not an awful movie. It's not his best by any means. It's not a great film, but
I don't think it's completely racist yet. So I mean,
I don't think it. Well, I think he's supposed to be though, isn't he? I will definitely watch Marnie because that's another one that Beth has never seen, and it's like one of Hitchcock's best that nobody talks about.
He was in Marnie?
Yeah, he's the main character.
He's the main character?
He's Marnie. No, but he is. I
thought it was a girl's name.
Yeah, it is. It's Tippi Hedren. But he was in Marnie. Of course, I'll watch probably Dr. No, Goldfinger, all those.
Okay. All right. I was just curious. Yeah. So I guess if
you know what, which one I will definitely the first movie I ever saw him in, because it was on a small TV at a friend's house, and I had no friggin' clue, and it was one of his first movies. Is Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Oh sure, yeah. I remember my parents trying to make me watch that and it not working when I was small.
No, it's not great, but I love it. Time Bandits, of course.
Time Bandits,
dude. Terry Gilliam, Time Bandits, got Sean Connery. It's got like half of Monty Python in it.
Well, you've given me a lot to think about.
Hold on here for a second. I am now blown away by the Time Bandits thing. It's Time Bandits.
I've heard of it before.
Viewers, can you please let us know if you've seen this movie? I, for some reason, thought this was one of those movies that like everybody kind of in a certain age group just saw somehow. You don't even know how necessarily. You're just like, oh yeah.
Wait, is this the one with Shelley Duvall?
It definitely got Shelley Duvall in it.
Ian Holm? Just kidding. I looked it up. Nope, never seen this.
That is definitely worth watching with your kids. Holy crap.
This is not Baron von Munchausen, as far as I can
tell.
No,
it leads into it. Like, not literally, but there were, Gilliam made 3 movies that he had like as a trilogy, and it was this, Brazil, and then Baron Munchausen. And this movie is, holy crap, man. It's super, it's so fun. It's so
R.I.P. Sean Connery. Yeah. Come back and listen to, in fact, my idea was to have, keep going on my action movie bend, which I have. I just haven't finished any of the ones I've watching. So come back if you want to continue to hear about Sean Connery and or whatever random action movie I've watched since we did our Drive 1997 show. Anything else you want to talk about this week?
DeCascos for life.
DeCascos for life. Yes, the popular internet meme and or gang about town.
They get DeCascos gang.
As always, podcast at zerpoints.com if you are looking for that 51 in South Africa spot. Otherwise, podcast at bookclubformovies.com and Facebook and Twitter and Matt and Ryan. And thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.